Good morning, everyone. It's Tess, and today is tip 254. And it's a little bit more from what I was talking about yesterday because it fascinated me. I've been looking up articles and looking into it a little bit more because that idea of ice crystals, just kind of as a brief reminder, part of what I was researching yesterday had to do with a talk by a doctor, I think it was Joseph Dispenzo, from this past weekend for some people, or this past week from some people who were at Secret Knock in the San Diego thing. But what happened is it kind of introduced me to another doctor. Hi, Upendra, good to see you. Good morning. It introduced me to this idea of, yesterday I talked about, oh, Acro, my cat is going to say hello. It talked about how they took water and they had people talk to the water, and then they actually looked at the ice crystals underneath the different test groups so that they could see how water was impacted, the molecules of water were impacted by positive and negative thinking. And there were huge differences. I posted some pictures on my live from yesterday that if you were talking positively or saying thank you, these ice crystals formed in the shape of beautiful like snowflakes. But if you were negative or unhappy or you fool or words, just negative talk, it was like turmoil ice. So I found that to be really interesting, and I started looking for some more information from this Dr. Masaru Emojo, and he's done multiple studies and double-blind studies, and he's used water, he's used rice, and basically what he's finding is that the molecular structure of water changes based on how you're thinking or talking. He also did some tests with rice. He cooked rice, put it in containers, and had children talk to the rice containers for 30 days. And on one container, he was saying, fool, and on the other, he was saying, thank you. The kids were saying it to these two individual cooked rice containers for a month. Well, when the month was up, the one that had fool written on it that the kids said to the container every day for 30 days as they walked past it was rotten and moldy and looked horrible. But the container that they said thank you to actually barely had any signs of going bad on it. And it started making me think about, because this just really interested me, but I love that science type stuff, and it made me start thinking about like plants. And I'm going to do this myself just because I'm curious, and I know I'm not doing any kind of a huge scientific study, but I'm just curious. It made me think about the fact that as a kid, my grandmother used to always tell me if you talk to plants they'll grow better, and I'm like, well, I have 6 types of lettuce growing right now. Well, there aren't 2 exactly the same, so I'm not going to do it on that batch, but the next batch I'm going to grow 2 types of lettuce, and then I'm going to actually, because I don't have the heart to talk mean to my vegetables, especially if I'm going to consume them. But I'm wondering now, I want to test, and I've never tested, like my grandma always said, if you talk to your plants, they'll grow better. Well, if this is going back all those years, but nobody ever did a test on it, we have to start to recognize that in the same way that somebody recognized talking to your plants makes your plants grow better, talking more positively to your body is going to make your body feel better. And it just blew me away, and I loved looking at the pictures yesterday of the water, that if somebody talked positively towards water or negatively towards water, the ice that crystallized looked very different. And we all know that we have to improve the way we talk to ourselves. We all know, if we look around in the world, I find it shameful, but I went into my local store yesterday and they actually had to post at every register, our staff is doing the best they can. Please be kind to them and understanding. It's hard to keep staff when you continue to scream at them. And I thought, why are we living this way? It's not helping us, and it's not helping the people around us. So this, I found this to be really interesting. And now I'm kind of curious. I don't have the heart to scream and yell and say mean things to my plants, but maybe once that I'm going to try to talk to more positively and just see if it makes a difference. It was just the weirdest thing. But like I said, the water crystal test where they found that if you were saying like thank you to water or if you were negative to water, they did a double-blind 2,000 people test, and they had 2 sets. So they had one set that the people were talking to and knew they were talking to, and then there was another set that the people didn't actually directly know that they were talking to it. But the results were consistent in both. If it was positive, if it was in the environment of positive, the crystals were like snowflakes, and if it was in the environment of negative, it was disturbed looking water. It was like rippling streams, like uneven. And I did post them in my thing yesterday. But when you start thinking about, like, even in health, I worked in a healthcare system up until a couple of years ago, and there were tests going on at that time where if you had a pet that was considered like the pet, you could take them in. They were showing how there was so much improvement in patients that were visited by a pet because it would bring their moods happy and make them feel good. So now there's scientific evidence. If you want to search for it and it gives you comfort, there is scientific evidence that is being put together that supports how we think impacts the decisions we make and impacts how successful we are. And Doc V will always say stuff like, I'm a manifesting money machine and stuff like that. And he's done quite well in the past year or two. But I think we have to be careful what we're tossing out there and what we're saying. And these tests blew me away. So we really have to be careful with our intention. We really have to try to stop. And this one article gave some pointers with, your negative talk. As soon as you hear a negative statement, that's your signal that you have to stop. And this one article, because it kind of did some tests and studies related to chronic health. And I, like I mentioned, the healthcare system I work for actually brought in the pets, the animals that they knew would do well with people, and they saw improvements with that. We want to be careful because they also did some tests on what does your body release based on what you think. And they saw that it's almost like there's anger molecules and there's happy molecules, and based on what we're thinking is what gets like flooded through our body. It almost goes back to that statement that I think it was Sadhguru or one of the gurus that Doc V has told us. If you are thinking negative thoughts or you're angry at someone, the only person you're poisoning is yourself because you're releasing those negative feelings in your body. The person that you're angry at, unless they decide to feel angry, isn't going to pay the price. It's you that pays it. So don't allow yourself to become angry and make yourself sick because somebody else frustrated you. They keep saying the same thing. If you change your thoughts, you can change your life. If you change your thoughts, you can change your health. And as Doc V says, if you can change your thoughts, you can change your financial future, your abundance. So thoughts are equaling energy. And they gave a couple of coaching tips. There were 2 different articles that had 2 different ideas of coaching tips. So I'll kind of share this with you. The first one, the coaching tips were, as soon as you start to see that you have negative thoughts, number 1, stop and accept that you have that feeling. Then number 2 is ask yourself how this is serving you. And then that might help you to identify it's not really taking you down the right path. Then number 3, you can start to visualize or journal. And I do a lot of journaling, and this came from Zahar Mahoon with Unlimited. I try to make statements to tell my monkey brain what I want it to think. I want to be happy and joyful. I want to be successful. I want to feel good. Now, saying the statements alone isn't enough. You have to start to feel that so that your body is releasing those feel-good endorphins or feel-good energy molecules, because you want the feel-good stuff inside your body because it'll let your body heal. We've heard the stories of people who've had miraculous recoveries because they spent time in meditation and healing and prayer. Well, that time was a time of trying to think positive, and maybe they were able to overcome the negative emotions and let the positive healing type things into their body so that their body had more tools to fight with. The coaching tips were, again, accept your feelings. Then number 2 is ask how they're serving you so that you can try to shift them. And then number 3, visualize, say, journal. Try to learn to feel good. Try to store the nice feelings inside of you because it will help you as you try to move forward. I did find another article from Blue Star Medical, and it said 5 ways to handle negative feelings. The first one is be aware that you're having a negative feeling so you can stop. With the Unlimited group, and I do some coaching with Zahar Mahoon, who wrote the book, she's always saying, like, sometimes, when you're saying statements, stop and can you reword the statement in a positive way? Instead of like, nothing ever works out for me. You want to start to say, I'm learning to feel good every day, or I'm learning to, because sometimes you don't feel positive right away, but you're learning to move in a positive direction, because any of those negative things, you can almost feel them inside you, bring you down. So there are 5 ways where be aware, so you can kind of identify it and try to stop. Keep busy. I find that myself, I can't stay in bed. Like, as soon as I wake up, I have to get up and start moving around, because if I lay in bed, I ruminate, and I ruminate about all that I think is wrong, and that doesn't help me. So I just get up and get moving. So this idea of keeping busy, I agree with that, because that's part of what prompted me to start jumping out of bed. I actually trained my cats to want their treat in the morning so that they'll whine if I don't get up and go give it to them, so that I don't hit snooze. But that was so that I would stop myself from ruminating in bed about how horrible I thought things were. For some reason, that time of day caused me to ruminate, and I had to work hard to shift to a positive thinking at that time. So that keeping busy, avoid triggers. So for me, the trigger is laying in bed in the morning after I wake up. I just can't do it because my mind goes in a place that doesn't support me. Number 4 is get rest. But as soon as I wake up and I know the rest part is over, I got to get up, because monkey brain turns on, and monkey brain doesn't do good things for me. Number 5 is listen to music, and I think that's very true. If I get out and walk, or I listen to music, sometimes when I'm walking, I'll listen to "It's Going to Be a Great Day" meditations, or a great day affirmations, just something to kind of pump up my energy and make me feel good. So I'm going to end this with what Blue Star Medical kind of had as a quote. Remember, negative thoughts, they're doing tests and experiments that are showing that it is impacting products like water and rice and foods. And we've heard plants do well if you talk well to them. And we also know that animals are used in medical facilities to try to help people feel good. So we know there is some truth to this energy being, our bodies are full of energy, and that energy can be directed by how we're thinking, positive or negative. So Blue Star Medical's quote that I'll end today's talk with is, thoughts have power. Thoughts are energy, and you can make or break your thoughts by how you're thinking. So think in a way that makes you feel good. Think in a way that heals your body. Think in a way that produces positive energy and thoughts so that it can support you today and every day as we all move forward. And I'll let you know as I put my lettuces together, because I'm really curious now, since they're doing tests. I know I'm not a scientist, so I can't do any kind of an official test, but I'm just curious now. I want to go back to what my grandmother taught me years ago about her plants and her gardening. She talked to things when she wanted to nurture them back to health, and it worked. So if my grandmother was onto something way back then, scientists are just proving the same type of thing with water and rice and control groups. So why not? Oh, good morning, Thomas, and good morning, Linda, and good morning, Eileen. Good to see you. So take a few minutes and think about how you're feeling today, and if you can, shift it in a positive way. Too much negative is in this world. Like I said, I was ashamed that in a store, a grocery store, the employer had to post signs saying, please be nice to our staff. It's not healthy for the staff that we're lashing out at, and it's not healthy inside our own bodies to be holding all that anger. I know it's hard times. I know it's difficult for people, but if you can start to feel good inside, maybe we can release a little bit more of a positive energy. And if nothing else, it might make your health better. And then inadvertently, maybe you'll make somebody who just got yelled at by the person in front of them have a little bit of a better day today. We can do it, you guys. Let's make this world a little bit better today than it was yesterday. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a beautiful weekend.